What's up? New mic on the camera, so it's actually connected to my camera all the time where I've been using a mic. Otherwise, it's been connected to my phone. So I had to double record, had to record on my phone and on my camera, and then take the video footage of the camera and then the sound footage of my phone and then combine it. But now I've actually gotten a mic that is linked to the camera, so that is very, very nice. Hope it's working, because if it's not, this is kind of weird. All right, so we have two things on the schedule for today. We have, first off, deadlift programming talk about different things that I've been working on, and then we have my primary deadlift day of week 2, which is going to be the heaviest week 2 I've ever done by quite a bit. I think the second heaviest is like 315 I've done for a single, something like that, maybe 320. I think 320 is the heaviest I've ever done for a week 2, but this week 2 we're gonna have 325 to 330 depending on how it feels, and that's also kind of going into the deadlift programming stuff that I want to talk about. So, as most people know, when you increase intensity, you're most likely gonna get stronger. Like if you start doing much higher RPEs on average, you're probably gonna respond pretty quickly and get stronger, or just to get better at higher RPEs pretty quickly. But it's also gonna come at a fatigue cost, and sometimes that's not worth it. And oftentimes, lower RPEs seems to be better for strength, because you can still get the explosiveness and the force production that you need from heavier loads. You can get that on lighter loads without nearly as much fatigue at all. So, especially for deadlifts, on average, for most people, low RPEs is a pretty good idea in general. Like, you don't want your average RPE on deadlifts to be that high for most people. But what we found recently when I got my pec tear, I couldn't bench or squat at all, and what we found then was that my deadlift responded extremely well to the increased deadlift volume we did, because we didn't do squats and bench much at all because of the pec tear. We did significantly more deadlifts, and it just responded very, very well. So the first block, we did 360 kilos of that, and my previous PR was 342.5. So in the first block, we instantly hit a 17 kilo PR. Given that was also with straps, and that does make a difference. I am in a little bit of a better position when I'm using straps with the double overhand compared to with the mixed grip. So it was a little bit unclear what was what, but still a 17.5 kilo increase is still insane no matter what. So we continued that same thing where we just did more deadlifts, and then we hit 370 kilos. I still haven't posted that on YouTube yet, but I did that. We hit 370 kilos deadlift. That is more than Ronnie Coleman ever deadlifted. That is straight up insane. That's crazy. So we then, because then the pec tear started feeling significantly better, and then we switched over to the mixed grip, and it was pretty wonky at the start because I haven't pulled anything. That was also a period before the first block where I just did some random YOLO training for a couple of weeks while I wasn't on program. So at that time, it's been almost 3 months with 0 sets of mixed grip. So it was pretty awkward, and it did not feel good at all. So that entire block was pretty trash, to be honest. I ended up not even attempting my end of block top set because it just wasn't great at all on any of the days, and there was no signs in like the week 1, 2, and 3 that it was going to be good on the week 4 at all. Still went there and like filled it out, but as expected, it didn't feel too good. So we just didn't even try and hit something there. Fatigue was also really high because we started squatting and benching more again. But then what we kind of found was the volume being high on the deadlifts, it didn't really matter that much, but more so the intensity. So we could keep the volume decently low, still higher than average, but just keep the top sets, it's like singular top sets on each day higher, and then that worked extremely well. So I don't know why it stopped recording. I'm guessing it was pretty... I just did a half Torbjørnsen.
Nice. Nice.
Bro. It was only a little. It's alright. That's alright. Yeah, so we increased the volume and the intensity, but we found out it's probably mostly the intensity that is giving the positive effects on my deadlift more so than the volume itself. So now we are not necessarily scaling much down on the volume, but we're scaling much up on the intensity. So the intensity, meaning the RPEs for the top sets, are significantly higher, but the back down sets are still somewhat chill. That's kind of the thought of this block of the deadlifts, which is going to be the one leading into the comp, so it better work. It better has to work. So that's it for today's session. We have primary deadlifts. I think we also have some light bench. Yeah, we have a like single on bench, a 2-count single, I believe, which is interesting because obviously the pec tear and everything. Let's see what we can get up to. I think something between 165 and 185-ish would be good. I still don't really know exactly where my bench is at because of everything that's been going on with the pec tear and everything just getting back to normal. So let's hit the week 2 primary deadlifts, and these don't necessarily have to feel good, but I have to hit somewhat of a high RPE to then feel good in the next like upcoming week leading into the competition. All right, let's go. Alright, so the deadlifts actually moved really good. That 330 single was a little bit awkward off the floor, but felt very comfortable in the logout. So that was very nice. The bench was pretty easy. And now we move on to the next day, which is my primary squat and bench day. So this is the session that is 1 week out, 7 days out from the competition. And I have my week 3 squat here at 265. This is around about the heaviest week 3 I've ever done. I think maybe I've done 270 once for week 3, but this is heavier than it was last block, and last block I was really strong. Now next up here we have my very first 200 kilo bench ever since April or something like that, around April. So it was pretty crazy to feel this weight in my hands again. Very nice, especially with that first lift off where the side spotter thought that he should also lift it out in the unrack, but obviously I only wanted the like main spotter guy to do the outlift, but he didn't know that. I didn't tell him, so that was my bad. But then we got it out. And I was not going to do it like a real comp pause or anything like that, but we got it done, and I felt 200 kilos in my hands now, so I think this sets me up pretty nice for the competition. So next up we have my 1 week out deadlift, or 6 days out. This was the day after, and I actually have a PR right here, 335 kilos for a double. That is the heaviest double I've ever done, at least without straps, so gotta log in for this one.